Hello and welcome back to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast, the podcast equivalent to the three blokes who just keep turning up to the clubhouse on a Saturday and you don't understand why. Uh, we are back. Uh, week two of the Irk is done. What a week it was. Uh, Probably wasn't as thrilling across the whole as week one, but still mightily enjoyable.
I don't know. I think there was some really great results in there. I thought it
Yeah.
was a good week. I watched most of the games over the course of this weekend. Um, and yeah, you had both the bonus of like Zebre getting a big result. You had shocks, upsets. You had a comical Cardiff Scarlets game that was great fun. I thought it was a really good weekend.
Yeah. And then whatever Leinster Dragons was on Friday.
Yes. A typical battling performance from the Dragons, I believe is the phrase.
So we are your hosts. The Basically, if you typed in rejected chase contestants, we come up. Um, Lots of knowledge, just well, for two of us at least, not quite good enough for TV. Uh, no, it is me. I am James, and joining me, as always, is uh, the busiest man to come out of Pontardawe since Joe Hawkins' dad. And also new to IMDb as an acting credit is Robbie Owen.
I'll tell you what though, no, they added Chasing the Sun to Letterboxd recently. So I officially was able to log something I'm in on Letterboxd, having
That
had
means
that account since I was like 15.
there's like people in Blumfontein added you to their like top four favorite films now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not on the cast list, and I did consider like editing that and adding that, and I thought that is a level of tragedy that I'm not yet stooping to.
But yes, and before I come to you, if, a little glimpse into the acting world. My partner was involved in audiovisual media while she was in acting school, and she was Claire Foy's body double in The Crown for season one and two. And so, but she's not credited because she was too cheap to go pay for an agent. So she's not in the cast list. But basically, whenever you like, because actors are paid for the time they're on set. So anytime you see Claire Foy like on a balcony staring out of, at the peasants, it's my partner, which is pretty cool.
Mm.
Um, but Yeston, how are you?
Good. I kind of lost all sense of confidence approximately, oh crikey, about 30 plus hours ago. But now it's slowly creeping back, which is weird. Hence why I couldn't get a URC round two review out, even though I have got some analysis on at least two matches from there. So I feel like I'm quite fulfilled to talk about them. And yeah, final year of university is well underway. So that means there is a lot more stressful times to be ahead. And yeah, there's really not much to add. It was quite a quiet week.
Were you at the House of Pain this weekend?
Yes, I was. And it was for the first time in I think some of the first time since 2019 that Ponty didn't concede a point in a
Oh
game.
wow.
So
Oh,
yeah, it was quite a really good defensive performance in fairness, led by inside centre and everyone's favourite good player, Gareth Smith.
Oh, good player.
that is a good player.
And and yeah, it was quite a good defensive performance. And I think they'll probably be a little bit disappointed not to claim a try bonus point, but they're free from free, so a good start for them in the Admiral Welsh Premiership as it's called now.
All 8 million of their fans rejoice.
Yeah,
Uh,
just a bit. In fairness, there has been quite a healthy crowd there, and according to
that's
some
good.
people, season ticket sales are going well. So I
Mhm.
don't know.
That's good.
That's good. Good for Ponty. I am now officially a London citizen.
Oh.
I moved all my stuff from the south of England to London this week. Um, so that's been fun. Robbie, I assumed yours was filled with watching rugby and then editing videos about rugby.
Well, yeah, the actual weekend was mostly just sitting there watching rugby. I took a full Thursday to play the New Zelda, which was fun
Ooh,
to do something that
looks
isn't
good.
either of them, isn't, Have a full day where rugby didn't come up once was surprisingly pleasant when, it's been 6.5 years. And then right back into it and excited for the, weekend and witness the glory that came on Saturday evening.
It was, it was a shock to me when Link, pulled out a dummy switch pass to beat Ganondorf final in the final puzzle room. But look, bold design choice, but I dig it.
This is the worst thing is they have removed in the last couple of Zelda games the ability to change your name, change the protagonist's name to be whatever you like. So I can't name them Dan Edwards. I take
Yeah.
Dan Edwards on an epic quest.
Here's a question.
Hmm.
Has there ever been a AAA or like big video game that has included rugby in it?
Oh, I played. It's not that level, but like it made a reasonable splash. There was a game called Thank Goodness You're Here that came out like a month or so ago. There's like a very silly like Yorkshire set game. And there is a bit where there's a flashback to one of the characters being in school and they're being bullied by a kid holding a rugby ball above their head. Who's shouting that they've got a massive head. And that is the closest I think I've seen.
Same here, because apart from rugby games or games
Yeah.
rugby section in there, I can't think of like a game that has, rugby in it. That'd be interesting.
Every now and again you get a film that has like a weird rugby cameo or like a rugby ball popping in the background or like you see a Toulouse shirt or something.
What was that one? The not the Invictus Matt Damon. Wasn't there another one where they randomly were playing rugby?
The Departed. Matt Damon plays rugby.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
When he's like a police cadet. Yeah, he plays rugby. He's wearing number 10 on his back, but he's playing as a flanker, which Martin Scorsese lost all credibility for me after that.
Maybe he was just a big Justin Tipperick fan.
Yeah.
He was just like, this is what I envisage actually for Justin Tipperick. Well, maybe Martin Scorsese at the Christmas party that you'll both be invited to.
Yeah, the Squarespace Christmas party. Yeah. Get them back out. Yeah, I'll have a word. I'll have a word with old Marty.
Right. Even by our standards, this is pure waffle. So let's move on. Once again, for I think the third week in a row, there is no news. Which, we're at that point where James Hook telling people who he thinks should be 10 is now the news. Like that's where we are. It's like peak Rugby World Cup quarterfinal fever where like the only headline is Matt Dawson saying his team of the week.
Yeah.
Or like a combined 15 that's just England players.
It's someone's opinion masquerading as news.
Yeah. So we're there. Some not breaking news, but Swansea University are currently beating Leeds Beckett University 34-14. Wider squad member Theo Curry involved in the row. Lance Bradley is down there actually. So that's always great to see. Good to see Swansea Uni doing well. But it does
rare moment of him not being on a podcast. Lance Bradley.
Yeah.
He's always I think his midweek is spent entirely at university games and doing podcasts. That's the impression I'm getting from Twitter.
He's basically Caelan Scully and Patricia Vieira of the Red podcast. He's occasionally at university, but probably just on a podcast. But yeah, that's the news. There is no news. No fresh injury updates as far as we're aware. The press conference hasn't been released yet. Weirdly, Dragons have already done theirs and they play Saturday.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those because Cardiff's normally on the Tuesday for a Friday game.
Yeah.
Probably the Scarlets have the same type of
Scarlets
thing.
have done theirs. Watch the Scarlets.
So yeah, it's one of those weird ones because I think from my experience, kind of felt like last time I was involved in that type of scene, there was all the Saturday games felt like they were all Thursday press conferences.
Yeah.
But then the one time the Dragons were in South Africa, I think they had a Wednesday morning presser, which was on Zoom. So
see, I like a Wednesday one just before we record, like a Booty Bingo on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then they used to upload the player one on the Thursday.
But
Didn't I?
now it's kind of like just put them both out near the
I
same
don't
time.
think it was talked about enough that Jack Walsh did the presser in full kit. Like, what's that all about?
So when I visited last year, Jack Walsh did. Everyone else got changed and had a shower. Jack Walsh just put on a hoodie and sat in the corner on his phone while everyone else was getting changed, and I appreciate that. You know, I think obviously he's used to Aussie weather, isn't he? So he's used to very different climate. He's coming in. He's not. He's not changing. You know, he's going to carry on as he was.
What's the thinking there though? Because it's a lot. It's a 45-minute drive to Pontcanna when you're all sweaty.
Mm.
You know.
But see, no, but I used to have this when I played, right? Was I would rather wait and have a bath when I got home than have a shower at the clubhouse.
Depends what the showers are like, and
It's
I've
true.
not been to Llandarcy in many years, but the plumbing wasn't great then. So maybe that it's like that scene in Ted Lasso. We come back to it once again, where the only thing that Roy Kent wants is the showers to be fixed. So
I reckon Dan Edwards has probably been around this weekend and fixed the plumbing. He's probably been in, followed up his full house by going fixing the electrics, then the plumbing.
Ruben was giving him perfect service, just tools across the room. So yeah, no new injuries. Swansea University won. Let's go straight into it then. So Ospreys were at the Brewery Field in Bridgend on the weekend, where they took on the DHL Stormers. They ran out 37-24 winners.
That does sound about right.
That does sound about right. So, Yestin, talk to me so far. How are you feeling?
It was good to see. I think I watched. How many games of rugby did I watch on the weekend? Glimpses of about 5 or 6 on Saturday.
Robbie, talk to me about Ospreys versus Stormers.
Yeah, I think this was a superb win. Obviously, we went up there earlier this year, last season, and got an incredible result. I think one of the great URC away results the Ospreys have ever recorded. And this, nonetheless, despite being at home and being a weakened side because he had a lot of players missing the Springboks, so you did have bloody Ben Jason Dixon flying from Argentina back to South Africa onto the UK, then somehow getting down to Bridgend in time to come off the bench. So they did, and they did have Damien Phillips back from injury. It was still a very strong team, as we discussed last week. But I think this was nonetheless a really, really impressive win. And it felt like a huge moment for this squad. And in terms of kind of building momentum off this, I thought it was just fantastic and felt like a lot of the typical find a way themes coming together into kind of one ultimate package, like the closer we've come to like an all court finding a way since about Leicester away the other year.
Mm-hmm. I'm in full agreement. I'm actually just looking up the stats of where we are, because it all felt a bit doom and gloom after the Rodney Parade thing. Whereas, actually, on a level, I think the game was just really good. I think for me, it was game of the weekend, but that's because I didn't watch Sharks v Connacht. So I'd probably say that was. But actually, I think as a pure rugby spectacle, I think historically the Irk or the Celtic League has been like told that it's not as flashy, it's not as pleasing on the eye as its Anglo counterparts. Whereas actually, if that was Northampton versus Harlequins on the weekend, people would be like, yes, what a game that was.
Yeah.
So actually, I thought, as a spectacle, just as a rugby fan, brilliant. It just so happened that it was the Ospreys that came out on top. And, if we go through the actual game, so Leyland Zas scores first off a really well-worked try. So, this is where probably what actually the Stormers did there, what they lacked last when we went to them, was that ability to offload in the tight.
I think we were basically off the pace for the first 20 minutes. I
Yeah.
think it was quite a worrying first 20, and it kind of makes what came afterwards all the more pleasing, because we did, look off the pace. We deserved to concede first. We kind of couldn't stop the momentum at all. As you said, they were squeezing arms through contact and getting those offloads flowing, and then recycling really well for Zaz to score in the corner. And it was so well worked, but it was also a product of them getting through contact easily and not being kind of stopped cleanly on the gain line and not being wrapped up. And it's something Booth talked about afterwards, was like their main message to get onto the pitch was getting 2 men into tackles and adjusting. And one of the most pleasing things about this performance is pretty much from the moment Jack Morgan scores that try, from the build up to it, so around 20 minutes, they just changed completely, and they took one sniff of momentum and they went from there, and they adjusted the way they were defending. And suddenly the Stormers were getting no momentum. They weren't getting that go forward until those final 10 minutes. And to change the game completely for 50 minutes, I thought was hugely impressive and a huge, huge step forward, and what won us the game essentially.
So for me, so let's talk about the unlocking break that led into the track, because Yestin got particularly excited about this one. Talk to me about that.
So as my fire alarm has decided to turn off, so I think everything's okay. Bit better than last night. We went off at 1 a.m. when I was trying to sleep, when I was struggling to sleep, so that was rather unfortunate. But it's hopefully coming at an earlier time tonight. Where were we? The Owen Watkins sidestep. It weirdly comes from a miss pass from Adam Beard, which bounces off the ground, and which probably didn't go to plan, because I think it just missed where Jack Walsh was. But luckily Edwards picks up and gives it out to Watkin, and I think it was Ruanell opposite him, and he manages to step inside. Joe Dwyer was trying to flank round, and he's just missed him, which was the only thing he missed on Saturday night, by the way. Shout out Joe Dwyer for his 100% line-up throw in.
We jinxed that. It's been very much
called out. As everyone else in this podcast didn't believe in him, I thought he would. And so and then Watkin managed to break through 2 more tackles and make a break, which is probably one of his harshest criticisms in terms of his attack. I feel many Osprey supporters have kind of gone in for him over the last couple of years. Some might say fair enough in terms of passing out of hand and offloading game, but that step's kind of always been there. And you only really notice it when it works, because when it works, he's making a line break of some sorts and gives you really good front foot ball. And unfortunately, that time, the pass to Ruben Wong-Williams did go to hand, but it wasn't quite a try. And it's so relieving just to hear myself speak and hear other speaks that the ringing fire alarm in my ear. That was a really nice bit of play on the 22. It's kind of really the second real chance after the first one, where we played a phase. Watkin kind of went in on his own, and the Stormers turned the ball over. So it was nice to see on the second attempt that the Ospreys managed to kind of work that out rather quickly, and they managed to get 7 points out of it.
It's really nice. I think this game highlights it, and it's a really underrated part of Ruben's game. He runs the scrum half support line really well. So like that George Horn line, where he just sort of stands 5 meters in front of the play. And if not for a worldie of a tackle by Leyland's ass, he'd be over. But it's just the composure, the wherewithal that he's not needed in the end, but for Luke Morgan to latch on to Jack Morgan, because James Ratty is arriving from the last ruck, to go over then. So I think, Robbie said it best, is we would our best that first 20. I think there was still probably that emotional hangover from the week before.
Yeah.
But then from there we turned it on. We were on it, it feels. So from there then, we just looked, I think for the first half we were in ascendancy is the best way to say it, actually, rather than we looked better, but we were in ascendancy. It's hard to say. The Stormers, everyone's saying, "Oh, this is the B team for the Stormers." And things like they didn't play like a B team. It felt.
Yeah.
I thought they were really physical. I thought they were really switched on. And that's not, this is a Joseph Webber, Daniel Valemza. We looked through this team last week. We looked through that touring squad. There's some tasty players in there.
There was a moment in the URC. They did a pre-season thing with a bunch of the coaches together on a Zoom call together.
Oh, the sofa
And
one.
well, they asked about the players missing for the South African coaches, and John Dobson, the Stormers coach, said that, well, we should still have a Springbok in every position, even with the players missing.
I
And
thought that was
Toby
Jake
Booth
White.
laughed. Oh, was it Jake White? Have I got it
Jake
wrong?
White who
Okay.
said that, but
Never mind.
the point still stands. I know exactly what you're on about there.
Yeah, point still stands, right? That you go through that team, and that is not a team missing significant players. That is a team. If we were to assemble the same team for a UK club, that is dwarfing what it costs to put that Ospreys team together. That's a really handy team with plenty of international class players.
Am I right in saying that they only had like 5 people actually involved in the wider Springbok squad?
Oh,
You got Manny.
Dixon coming back in.
Yes, you have Manny, Sasha. Who else is,
Is Kitchoff
Morat.
Yeah,
Kitchoff's back. Yeah,
Kitchoff's back.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. So it's Lebok, Dixon, Morat, were the only
And Sasha.
And Sasha,
Yeah,
sorry.
so he's
been left because he's injured. Yeah. So they were the only ones still retained in the squad going to the 2 Argentina games.
Yeah, let's not, act like they were missing 13 players. They weren't. They were missing 3. And one of them flew back to get a yellow card.
It's probably one of the most pointless yellow cards ever as well.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about it. Despite all the good work of that second half, it is hands down probably the most pointless yellow card that anyone will ever see ever again, because nothing happens after it. Is he not allowed to be a part of the tunnel for full time? What's the situation with this?
Spends 10 minutes sitting on a lawn chair at the brewery field before he's allowed to do anything.
He can't go into the Tesco car park yet. He's got to hang around. It's hilarious bit of formality from Andrew Brace. That I know my bosses will dock me if I don't do this. So just hand out the fine to Dixon.
It's like in football when someone takes their shirt off to pay tribute to their dad who's ill or something, and the referee comes over shakes their hand I've still got to book you, despite the fact you're celebrating someone who's just beating cancer or something like that. I've still got to book you. So, end of the first half, how did you feel? Because I felt a bit I don't know how I felt we're going to throw this away here because of that stupid penalty we gave just before halftime that gave them the lead. I think Yestin, you said this, that Stormers are going to go up another gear here.
Yeah, I kind of thought that there might be a little bit more in that Stormers performance. They played well, and they took their chances well during that first half. But I kind of felt like they just maybe eked out a few more penalties up front, and then the backs will probably take control. And I kind of just felt like the Stormers would just kick on a little bit, and maybe something that we hadn't seen in the previous fixture last season, which I probably worried about at the same time in Cape Town last April, where I just thought the Stormers would just kick on and they'd take control of the game. And just like last April in Cape Town, it didn't really happen.
I kind of felt somewhere in the middle where I felt like it was in our hands, but it felt like either we're going to win this or we switch off completely and the Stormers walk away with it. I thought it was either going to be resounding, the Stormers are much, much better in the second half, and as you say, go up a gear and we just can't live with it, or it was going to be a win from there. I felt like if it was going to be a tight game, it was going to be ours. We'd kind of done enough of the finding a way to see it through, and I felt like there were lessons from that Dragons game that it felt they were learning. And I felt the moment the second half began, you kind of got a sense of that, They were physically getting on top. They were, again, adjusting that kind of tackle and stopping the momentum much easier and winning turnovers and kicking unbelievably well. Like, we've kind of danced around it, but I thought Dan Edwards was just like unbelievable. I thought this was his
Yeah, I
best.
was going to come on to Edwards
shirt.
when we get
Yeah,
to the end of the game. We'll talk about individuals.
of course. Okay. Yeah.
They came out early, like you said, really physical.
Mm,
The defense looked a lot more comfortable. I think
mm,
coming up the second half, you force Valemza into a drop goal.
yeah.
So you thought, right, okay, we'll be 19-13 down at this point. So you're okay, right. We either roll, this point now, we either roll over or we have to attack. And this was the perfect game for someone of Justin Tipperick's experience to grab by the scruff of the neck and say, no, this is how you beat a team like this, is they attack, you attack harder. And so him getting that ball, and he's like, all we need to make these guys suffer is field position. And I think nothing encapsulates this team more than the Tipperick grabber into the corner and what comes next. So for those who don't know, Tipperick gets the ball just in between the 10 and the 22.
Yeah.
I think it's just before the 10-meter line, I think. Because there's a little bit of doubt if it was a 50-22 or not, but obviously it was about 8 meters in front of the halfway line.
He pings a lovely grubber, which even if it had not gone out, it would have been arguably a perfect grubber.
Yeah.
But it goes out, literally touches the corner flag and goes out. So you're like, hello, yes, please. And I was listening to the English commentary on S4C with a friend of the pod, Dave Rogers, and Siwan Lillycrap, former Wales number 8. And they were just gushing over the fact that this man has just done that. And
Maybe
then
my favorite moment of the game is Owen Watkins' reaction. You get on the kind of reverse angle of it. That Watkin has a laugh of incredulity, like, I can't believe he's just bloody done that on his face.
well, they're all laughing. This is
Yeah.
the thing. They're all just like, what has just happened?
But I think it's not like when Reece Henry put that kick in and people laughed in like, like, I can't believe that's happened. What's just happened?
Yeah.
Seeing Justin Tipperick do it, it's like, of course he's nailed it perfectly. We shouldn't have ever doubted he was going to do this the moment he caught the ball. And if you watch that clip back as well, right, Tipperick is calling for that 2 phases out. Like, he shouts for the ball, like, in position. And then, like, when it eventually comes to him, he instantly drops it on the toe. Like, finally, this space has been there for ages, and catches Valemza out massively.
So from said maul, the Stormers comically just fuck it up and they get put into touch. And it's brilliant marshalling by Tipperick. And I have a feeling probably Adam Beard, who's on the other side of the maul, pushing it basically towards the touchline. And then Kieran Williams, so we get the line, and then Kieran Williams runs one of the there's two people ran the exact same line this weekend. Kieran Williams ran that lovely inside line. And Ollie Lawrence did the exact same in the Leicester Bath game. And both times it sets up a try.
Yeah.
He runs this.
Some good coverage of that game on ITV somewhere.
Yeah.
As we go back.
It was Wibble Rugby.
I get no royalties for that show. I shouldn't be pushing it.
No, so yeah, right. Kieran runs a lovely inside line. You then get, is it who steams onto the ball? Is it Jack Morgan steams onto the ball?
Morgan Morris is on second phase.
Morgan Morris at second. And the thing that actually creates the quick ball for Ruben to go over is a lovely clear up by Deves, who just absolutely twats someone off the ball and creates a space for Ruben to go over. So, he's actually essentially we've scored the same try twice because it's come off. Someone's made a break. We've generated quick ball, which has been a criticism of the Ospreys, that we can't generate quick ball, and then we go and score twice off it. So from there, you're like, this is now a momentum shift.
It was one of those things that was really jarring, going from watching Wales women in the morning to watching the Ospreys in the evening.
I agree.
Is the Ospreys have got so good over the last year. And I think it's a combination of both Mark Jones coming in, but also the other coaches around. You know, it's partly attack coach's job in Richard Fussell and breakdown coach with Richard Kelly. You know, everyone's involved here of just pulling bodies in and doing long clear outs and preventing people folding around on the try line and having that little bit of detail that opens up gaps. It's why we were so good at converting chances last season. And I think a little bit of that was off against the Dragons. We didn't see that. And then we got down onto the 5 meter line. And I believe we converted every single time this weekend. And a lot of that was just,
which is what we were lacking at Dragons.
Yeah. And a lot of that was moments you say, like Harry Deeves making that clear out. And again, I forget who did it in the lead up to Jack Morgan try, but just like taking players out, making sure you're sneaky and smart. It's a thing Ireland are really, really good at, and it's something the Ospreys have got really good at. And yeah, when you watch a team, when you're supporting a team like Wales Women, who are in similar positions and getting into similar positions repeatedly and unable to do that because they don't have the same attention to detail and just like sneakily hiding their bodies and pulling people out of place, it really shows, you know, and it allows for those moments to be converted, as Ruben does beautifully on his 100th game.
And then the moment of the game for me, probably tied with the last bit, is Dan Edwards stepping up 45-meter drop goal.
Yeah.
And, you know, Gatlin Howley were in the crowd. And if I was Rob Howley, at that point, I'd be like, yes. Do you know what? Because there's just an inherent, like, swagger about Dan Edwards and the way he plays. I don't think we've seen this arrogance in a 10 since Dan Biggar was an 18-year-old. And this is not me saying that Edwards is as good as Dan Biggar. It's me saying he's got that same arrogance. You know, Toby Booth, you know, calls him the quarterback. Anyone who's watched NFL is, if you heard how a quarterback talks to his offensive line and his receivers, and you did that in any other job, you'd be at a tribunal and you'd be fired. But that's what Dan Edwards does, and that's what Dan Biggar does, you know. And it's been quite a week for shouty, arrogant 10s.
Yeah.
But I feel like Dan Edwards falls into the good part of that, because let's be quite frank, he did not need to stand that far back. He did not need to stand 5 meters off the halfway line, but he did it because he can. Because actually, he's saying to Stormers, he's saying to Damien Valemza, you know, he's a World Cup winner, isn't he?
Yeah. Twice.
Yeah.
The man that called the scrum from the mark in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is what we're talking about. This is the Damien Valenza.
Yeah, this is like it's the Damien Valemza, and he says, "Fine, you put one over from just outside the 22. I'm going to twat one from 45 meters out, and not bat an eyelid." That's the level of arrogance we're talking about here.
Yeah. I think it's also an absolutely beautiful moment of game management, because you look at the 2 phases leading into that, right? So they're running an attack on the 22. Edwards has called a shape. The pass goes ever so slightly behind him. So it kind of lands behind him. He picks up, regathers, carries it in, knows there's nothing on there. The ball's slow. You know, the next phase, James Ratty gets caught behind the game line. And as he's getting back up to his feet, you can see Dan Edwards looks at that phase behind the game line and he starts jogging back into the pocket. And like 30 seconds later, he's hitting the ball and knocking it straight through the sticks. And he's gone, we've lost momentum now, you know. He doesn't wait for it to become shapeless, doesn't wait for it to become fruitless. He sees 2 phases in a row. We've gone backwards. We're not taking any chances anymore. I'm cashing out. I'm taking 3 points. And as you say, he strikes it beautifully with that hint of like, I'm the man about it. Yeah. And I loved it. I thought it was just, you know, you mentioned Wibble Rugby. Like, I spoke to the Connor who runs Wibble Rugby that evening, and brought it up, and he was like, oh God, no, that kid. It was a moment of him, Connor, having not watched him nearly as much as me, of being told like, oh, he sounds like a test player. You know, there was like the minerals of a test player and the game management there that you want, you know.
But it just sort of like, it was a mixed day for Welsh 10s, right? And I don't want to go on here and rag out other players, right? But you've got senior, who, you know, despite him, the player I'm talking about being a young age, senior players who are seemingly having a crisis of confidence. something that Robbie, you talked about, and so we're talking about Sam Costello, and this is not me sort of calling Sam Costello a bad player. I'm saying he's having a crisis of confidence. Where you said, Rob, prior to the season, what I want Sam Costello to do is take the game like the one on Saturday against Cardiff by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah.
And say, no, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're
Yeah.
going to win. And he didn't do that. And then you look not an hour later, and you've got Dan Edwards doing exactly that. He's saying, no, right, we're going nowhere off these two phases. Let's bang a drop goal over. Get back downfield. That's what it felt like. And this, we shouldn't be comparing and contrasting. We should be celebrating the fact that there is another Welsh 10 doing that, who's 21. That's what we should be doing. And yeah, I could sit here. Oh, he's just so good and he's so cool.
I think, because the other thing is, right, that in amongst all of this, to keep on the Dan Edwards hype train, obviously there is another moment to come, but he was the fifth Osprey ever to go through the score sheet, to complete a full house, get a try, a drop goal, conversion on a penalty.
He's the third Osprey.
He's the third Osprey. It's the fifth time it's ever been done. Yeah. So James Hook and Dan Biggar have done it twice each. I believe the last time was 2018. Dan Biggar did it. And to see that come, I want to say Leinster. No, it was Cardiff. It was Cardiff on Judgment Day. Cardiff.
It's Cardiff Judgment Day, of course. Yeah.
And to see that come off is fantastic, and they're the obvious headlines. But the way in which he was consistently schooling Damien Valemsa, who is, as you say, a World Cup winning fullback, who started on the winning team in the World Cup final last year at fullback, and Dan Edwards was consistently finding space beyond him, around him, and then winning kicking battles against him. There were maybe 3 or 4 moments where there were direct exchanges between Edwards in the backfield for one side and Valemsa for the other side. A World Cup winning fullback against an under-20s fly half, and Edwards was coming out on top consistently. And that, for me, was very much this kid is ready to play Test rugby. I don't know whether it's the best thing for his development to throw him in the deep end at the autumn. I think maybe you are better kind of giving him time with the Ospreys to develop fully and grow, and almost get a bit angry that he's not being picked by Wales, and kind of kick on ahead of, the coming year. Same thing worked really well with Marcus Smith, giving him a bit of time to be hungry and build into it and earn it fully, and only step up when he was fully ready. That worked beautifully with, Marcus Smith. But, and Jack Crowley as well, I suppose. But I think I saw a player on Saturday who, if you put him in a test match, I would expect him to flourish.
I 100% agree. So after the drop goal, we move then into, was the Tom Boter hit next? Because I feel like we should talk about that. Tom Boter murdered a man.
And so did Ruben as well. Ruben was holding the knife.
Well, right, yeah. Ruben's taking credit for that. That was but it was just so nonchalant by Tom Boter, who I think has a really underrated tackling technique anyway. I think for a big man, like a traditionally big man, he gets really low. But that was I think it was only a couple of phases earlier that Jack Morgan killed Valemsa as well. He just picks him up and drives him back. But that Tom Boter, somewhere Martin Gillingham shed a tear. He said he hasn't missed a game in 84 years, but he just shed a single tear because Tom Boter made that hit. So from there, 64 minutes, I want to say, because it was when Brock Harris came out. It was the first thing Brock Harris did, because I remember it was still on the screen. We go for a pre-rehearsed lineup move. So Dewi Lake, who I will come on to later, because I think came out of this game really well, throws the ball over to the 15. It lands in Keith's hands. Now, I can't remember where I've seen this move before. I don't think we've ever run it, but I've seen it run before. So Keith takes it, and he's basically wanting his outside defender to shoot up for the intercept, because essentially he's the plan would be to pass it to Dan Edwards, who gets it along the line. Now Ruben comes on a beautiful arc around the corner, makes the line break, and puts in a beautiful chip for offloading to Dan Edwards for his try. wow, that's apparently we only score bangers at the Brewery Field, but that seriously was yes. Then talk me through what were you feeling at that point for that try?
It feels like any good try that comes out the Brewery Field, they're either scored by or created by Ruben Morgan Williams or Dan Edwards. And this one had both of them in the same move. So it was rather good. And everyone's had their dig of the Ospreys in the past about their style of play, etc., etc. We could go on all night about it, but it's really innovative to see that. A move has come off the training ground, and I think Toby Ruth mentioned this post match. It's 2 from 2 now in terms of tries that have come off first phase line out. So
Mm.
you've got the Kieran Williams one against the Dragons, and obviously this. And you look at it first up, seeing the Stormers defense just blitz in out of line, and you're thinking, if a pass goes wrong here, there's going to be 7 points up the other end. And luckily for everyone in the Brewery Field, it didn't. And yes, a lovely line by Morgan Williams, and it's always good to see a chip and chase with the bounce actually favouring the attacking side instead of one that just dribbles along the floor, and you've got
Mm.
an awful pickup to take. And
Shout out Justin Tipperick circa 2013 against the Dragons.
yes, and but Morgan Williams shows really good awareness to have, and there's probably really good communication from Edwards as well about how being tackled so close to the line, and just the awareness to offload it to his halfback partner to score. And it's a really well worked move, because I think the line probably did start to creak at that stage for the Ospreys. There's a lot of contesting going on from the Stormers. Adam Beard did have his work cut out during that 80 minutes, and it was rather refreshing to see it switched up and to create a try out of what looked like a line out that the Stormers would have, maybe if it was a traditional line out, as I prefer to call them, where they just jump up normally, and instead of going over the top, where you'd probably expect Stormers to compete for it, but instead they went out the back, and they managed to get 7 points out of it.
What I will say about Dewi is that it's clear there's a tactic this season to make Dewi throw a lot, because he's already thrown 30 lineouts in 2 games. So
I think a lot of that probably comes from oppositions as well, wanting because he's got a reputation, right? And I don't.
It's the Dweber thing. It's that's what we want to do with Dweber. Is like, actually, I don't mind if we put it off the park, because it means Dweber has to throw. So actually, this whatever they're doing actually probably works out better for Dewi in the long run, because what it says is that I'm not going to succumb to this pressure. And we got to remember that, Scarlets fans like to bring this up a lot. It's not just the hooker's fault. It comes down to and if only there was a video online.
Oh, I know.
Watch.
Someone could do that. Someone could really use something with that. Perhaps with like a former England second row.
Yeah.
Maybe Jeff Parling.
Two plugs in one night. This
got more plugs than Stuart Hough's hairline.
Yeah, we've been talking about the tactical kicking battle as well. If only we had a journalist who was writing about that as well.
Yeah, well, whatever that was.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's good for Derry in the long run. I think, yeah, like you said, Yeston 2 from 2 in terms of strike moves, and actually the behind the mask episode this week, they talk about. Actually, it was Derry Lake who talks about that we need to be better off strike moves as a team. When we took it was the Leinster game last year where they said Leinster are the most deadly team off strike off that on first phase. So really good try. To have that synergy in your halfback partnership. It's just so nice, and to have a 10 who runs support lines like that as well.
Yeah.
Really,
don't underestimate the support line.
Yeah, you can't.
The support line.
Then, so they get back through JD Schickerlin, who had a fantastic game, by the way. I thought he was Stormers man of the match for me.
Yeah,
what a great player, by the way. a very good player.
Yeah, he's in like a good player 15.
Yeah.
Um, first game back from Japan. So they come back into it and then they threaten it again. This defensive set is my moment of the game. Um, so they're 20 phases, pounding the line. And my three people who stand out to me in that are Ben Warren. I actually messaged him after the game. I said, look, you appeared on the pod, you came back from injury early, and then you go and, bat the Stormers. But his tackling in that game was unreal. In that 20th phase, it's him who chops two players down for Ratty. Because was it a sealing off penalty? I'm assuming that's what it was.
Yeah, I
So,
think it
yeah.
was.
Yeah, because it's credited as a Ratty
Yeah.
turn, but it's not. I thought it was a sealing off penalty because that's what it looked.
Warren's involvement is fantastic. That tackling support player as well as the tackler and leading to that collapse. Like, it's really impressive. Again, small details like right down the other end.
I think someone in the ruck before is a couple of phases before. Someone in the ruck before knocks the ball free, so the ball spills out. It's picked up by I think Schickerlin, and Garen Phillips and Ben Warren just pounce and push them back about 2 or 3 meters. But it's little details like that you're like, yes, that's what Mark Jones is bringing to this defense.
Yeah.
It's that want and that fight. And when you've got, your tight head prop making chop tackles like that, and then James Ratty, who is quickly becoming Wales's most underrated player, he got up from that. If you look at that, I've got to watch that again. If you watch him when he gets up from that sealing off penalty, he looks like he's just gone like 6 rounds in a boxing ring. Like he can barely stand up because his body has just expended all energy. And then from there, you just, I don't think any team, I don't think the 05 All Blacks would have scored because I think that's the attitude of that defense there is like, we are not letting anyone through.
It felt like the ghost of last week being put to bed.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's exactly what it was. And then, so Stormers get the ball back. They put a kick downfield, but Duplessis?
Someone was pinged offside somewhere. Yeah. That's all I remember.
And then the confidence for Jack Walsh to go for the distance on that kick.
Yeah.
Again, the ghosts of last week where we couldn't, where Jack Walsh put it off the field, not very far. Goes there, and then I can't tell you how many times I've watched that line out.
Made me so happy. Like, I was on cloud nine for about an hour and a half just sitting there, just delighted.
It's honestly, you can put it in there as the perfect line out and drive. I'm not being hyperbolic here, but like at any level, that is the perfect line out driving maul. So Derry Lake, buoyed by confidence is, he's played 80 minutes for fuck's sake. It hits double tops to Adam Beard, and who gets criticism actually that he doesn't call to himself. So then Adam Beard's like, okay, then call to me at the back, the back middle, and then the perfect driving maul. Like you cannot get any more perfect than that. And Andrew Brace gives the penalty try, and then comically gives Ben Jason Dixon, who's travelled thousands of miles to end up in Bridgend to get yellow carded for 4 seconds.
This, like, that try is, I think, shown by Toby Booth's reaction on full time.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite moments from this team over the last few years. I instantly added it to the keeping a list now of the Find a Way World Cup, which I think has to mark the end of the Boothie era. We'll hold
in April.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, in June when we win the Irk.
When we win the Irk, yeah. Again, that will be the ultimate finding way. The Dan Edwards drop goal to win it. I can't wait. But just like the sheer spirit and like what it showed about this team and exactly who they are, to go from the dread of going, oh God, we're going to lose in the last minute 2 weeks in a row, to a drive over try once again. Probably Luke Guiend was probably signed for the Stormers. And actually, it was Brock Harris, who it wasn't Dragons legend anyway. Probably would have done it in that 18 shirt. To then go the length of the field, hold out another defensive set, win the penalty, have the balls to go right down for the corner, and then score off it was just like a beautiful image of what the Ospreys are. And then, yeah, you mentioned the yellow card. I love Max Nagy's contribution here as well. He very slowly jogs in, like, yeah, I'm coming to help, lads. And everyone else is like straight in. Keith's right in there. He's loving
Combies
it.
in there.
Yeah, Nagy's a bit like, I am less keen, but I will offer my help if needed.
Daniel Cassende joined in spirit.
Yeah. Oh, he was like on the flight over, probably like already trying to jump in.
Yeah. And that was the game. Like, really summed up well. I liked Toby's interview afterwards. So he talked about it was a great second half. The sign of a good team and players is that they change and adapt quickly. They implemented exactly what we talked about at half time, made a few tweaks, and it made a big difference in the game. Yeah, just really, really happy with the outcome, obviously. So very quickly before we move on to Munster, give me your standout player and why. So Yeston, you go first.
This is quite tricky. Probably Derry Lake, I think. It might not be everyone's first choice answer, but I kind of felt like that was the performance which could see him captain Wales in the autumn. I know Jack Morgan is Osprey's captain, but I kind of feel like from the good job he did in the summer with Wales out in Australia and the performances he's shown so far this season, you kind of feel like that might just edge him in as captain.
Again, Toby Booth said this on the rugby pod. Dewi suits being captain for Wales more because his position is less under threat. And actually, to a lesser extent, we talked about with Dan Edwards and other Welsh 10s, there's no other real Welsh hooker standing up at the minute. Actually, the other hooker who's standing up from a Wales point of view is Brodie Coughlin for the Dragons. So yeah, I fully agree. He made 27 meters, beat 4 defenders. He was bouncing boys off for fun. That tackle he made from just sprinting cross field, and all you can hear from someone on the sideline is "shot." Robbie, who was your standout?
I mean, Dan Edwards, I mentioned. Ruben Morgan Winters, I thought was superb as well.
Yeah,
but I do want to mention Jack Morgan because I just thought he was so destructive. Would be the word. The impact he makes in rucks, even when he doesn't win them on opposition ball, is enormous. The amount of people he's dragging in with him, he's pulling in, as well as the turnovers and the shots he's making. He's so good on the carry. Like, he adds a level to this team. And I just thought he was absolutely brilliant. I think either one of the halfbacks would deservedly be man of the match. But yeah, I thought Jack Morgan was also just absolutely exceptional.
And then for me, I'm going to go James Ratty. He is so underrated as a player. He carries everything. So yeah, he was our highest carrier. So I think James Ratty for me. Just every week he's adding to his game. Every week he just steps up a level, and I think again that's a performance that I think if you're Gatland, you're like, yes, please. I want my back row lock hybrid to carry everything, do all the donkey work, and just so great. So it doesn't get any easier as we make the short hop over the channel to the land of Cork, where we go to Virgin Media Park, otherwise known as Musgrave Park, to face Munster, who of course come off the back of a tonking by Zebra. So Zebra have an injury list longer than the Good Friday Agreement. But they are expected, I think, to welcome back their internationals. Did you say, Robbie?
Yes. So Tyburn is injury allowing. set to make his debut as Munster captain this week. They've kind of made that public. And yeah, it looks like a lot of their big names are coming back in. So probably Crowley will come back in alongside a few of the others because, yeah, they are missing an awful lot. But there are players that haven't played yet and haven't had the chance to pick up injuries who you're expecting to see slide right back into that team. So it'll probably be a stronger Munster team than we saw last week.
Yeah, you might look. You're listening to the Red Army podcast with Kaylin, who's on the United Rugby Rewind podcast, and good all-round egg Patricia Vieira. They are predicting Jack Crowley could come in at 12.
Oh, okay.
Because they've just got no one at centre, no one Alex Nankiville. The Emerging Island tour has nicked Sean O'Brien. So, yeah. On our side, we are looking at rotating.
Yeah.
Now, I'm in two thoughts because we've had multiple thoughts about this now. Is how much rotation happens, firstly, and where the rotation happens. So, realistically, you're looking, I think, at Dewi won't play.
No, I think that's fair.
Jack won't play. Adam Beard, I think, is touch and go.
I think we're so short on lineouts on second rows that he might have to. We've sort of got 3 fit second row, so they're probably all going to have to play in some combination. And if he's in the 23, you might as well start him.
Yeah, I think. I think Dan Edwards is touch and go.
I think with Owen Williams coming back to fitness as well,
yeah,
potentially you want to have a look at him now he's fit for this weekend.
I still think you start Walsh though.
Do you think at 10?
Yeah, I think you start Walsh, move Nagy in a fullback. We'll do our squad prediction now, but I think then Kieran drops out. I think you bring Phil in at 12, or you Owen to 12 and put Phil at 13.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect chance to have a look at one of those. I think the players will be looking to rotate out and rest are the players in the most attritional positions, other than Tom Bota, because we can't afford, him to not be in the 23.
Yeah, I mean,
so we might start Ben Warren. He might step in.
Yeah, I wouldn't be averse to starting. Ollie Jaeger had a bit of a tough time against Visconti. And
by all accounts, extra way, having Tom Bota come off the bench worked really well. Kind of gave us a shove in those scrums late on.
We've already seen that Morgan Morse and Harry Houston aren't in the Swansea squad, as well as Cam Jones, the prop. I don't know why I'm saying that as if we have another Cam Jones.
We did.
We did. He's now tearing it for Cornish Pirates, actually.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, you might see them try. I don't expect to see Cam Jones involved, but I think he'll travel. Houston, I think we might see off the bench. I think Morse you'll see off the bench because Deeves will definitely go into that back row. Yeah, I think obviously it makes it tougher because we're in the opposite position to Munster because they've come off a heavy loss. They've got this game and then they've got they've got Leinster at Croke Park in front of 65,000 people sold out. So actually the pressure is all on Munster here. Whereas we're in the predicament of we've come off 2 games that are incredibly emotionally charged.
Yeah.
But then we've got the Bulls at home next, which is eminently winnable. And as we worked out this week, the Bulls and Leinster are the only 2 teams we haven't beaten in the Irk era.
Wow.
So there's a chance to rewrite them wrongs. So yeah, we're sort of in the same boat, but in different parts, if that makes sense. Because ultimately the pressure's on Munster to come out with a performance and B, the win.
Yeah,
because they need it more. For us, I think the performance matters more than the win. Are we capable of going out and winning? Absolutely. Do I think we will is another question.
Right now, if you offered me 1 point, you've offered me losing bonus point, I would take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the goal for this season broadly is to perform better than we did in the corresponding fixture last season, right? And last time against Munster, we got nothing out of it in the end, thanks to a sniper getting Alex Cuthbert's ankle. And I would take 1 point, we haven't beat Munster in 3 years. We haven't beaten Munster away since 2016. So it would be a huge result. And actually, that 2016 game was the last but that one, 2021 game, last time we beat Munster. We've beaten them, once in the 8 years in between. So, Ryle Nugent on the Zebre Munster game referred to this. He referred to Munster as having two quite easy games, winnable games, early on. And he was like, things do get tougher after these easy games against Osprey and Zebre. And they lost one of those. There's no reason they can't lose both.
Yes, then how do you feel about going to the Virgin Park?
It feels like every ground in Ireland are currently going through a sponsorship change, so it's quite hard to keep up where everything is, for starters. And it's heading out to Ireland's always going to be tough. You might think Munster have got quite a big injury list and quite a disappointing result last weekend against Eyrie. Not many would have expected that. My Super Bowl predictions went down the pan, mainly because my top 14 predictions were woeful, but that's enough of that. But you kind of sense like the Munster probably will want to have a good performance because they weren't overly convincing against Connacht in round one. There's only a couple of points in that game right at the end. I think Munster conceded 75 points in 2 games, which is very unlike Munster.
Which they've also had the best defence in the Eyrie for 2 seasons now.
So, if you look at historically, their defence has always been rather good, and they punish you through that good defence by taking chances on offer, like we saw in Swansea in March. So it could be a real test. It'll be interesting to see what the rotation is regarding both teams with injuries on Munster's side, and with the rotation probably needed with the small squad that the Ospreys probably have. So it'd be interesting to see how both teams really approach it. Do the Ospreys go all in on a win, especially with the Bulls game at home the following week? And would Munster want to go all in to try and get some momentum going into the Leinster game, which you probably expect would happen?
I think you make a really good point about the previous 2 games being real emotional points. And there is a worry that if we go all out at this game, then that costs us the ability to view the Bulls in the same way, And maybe the smart thing is to do the same we did with Benetton last time, where we give a lot of the squad players a chance and go, this is your cup final. This is your chance to sneak in and give it a real go.
This is your ever.
Yeah, this is your... Yeah, I was going to make a call back and I realized it was to a different podcast. But there's a former All Blacks coach called Dick Everest that I discovered this week. So make a week of that. Don't Google it. But yeah, so it is a Munster team that's expected to bring back Peter O'Mahony as well as Crowley and Tyke Byrne. And the kind of key point as beyond that from Dennis Leamy's press conference was all about the Zebre game. It was all about being embarrassed by that. Very little talk about the game coming up, all about putting that to bed. And I suspect that is the focus for Munster. It isn't on us, the Ospreys. It's on themselves and what happened last time. And then thinking to say ahead a week to Leinster. Leamy said in the press conference, incidentally, like Graham Rowntree didn't do the press conference himself because I believe he doesn't want it.
No, true.
But Leamy was saying the key thing is he wants the performance to be meaner. So, if we see Craig Casey sticking his tongue out and doing na at Ruben Morgan-Williams, then we know they've achieved that.
But I think Patricia said this actually. No, Aylin, one of them said it, where they said, if you're Munster, you almost want to concede a really stupid yellow card in the first 10 minutes to be like, we're actually really up for this.
Yeah.
where like Gavin Coombs twats Ruben Morgan-Williams off the ball. Basically anything that the Dragons did against the Ospreys in 2022, 23.
This is why Jack Walsh needs to be at 10
Yeah,
to guarantee cheap shots.
yeah, literally, you joke, but I still maintain Ray Lilo should have been sent off against us at Breweryfield last year. But no, we're actually sort of in a really perfect position because I think if they had any other team next week, they'd be like, actually, all our focus is on the Ospreys.
Yeah.
But because it's Leinster at Croke Park, they're like, actually, oh shit, if we don't perform this week, even if we get a win, then it becomes really hard.
If they lose to Zebra away, then Ospreys at home, but beat Leinster in triumphant fashion,
I will get you
all that's forgotten.
best
All of that's forgotten.
Tattooed on me. That happens. I genuinely will. But and there's a really good point is that yes, Munster have won the league, but they've and it's the Munster squad right now has a higher glass ceiling, but the Johan van Gran team had a stronger foundation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
And Kayla made a really good point. You don't lose that game under Van Gran. And it makes me. It's a really tough one because like I think the emotional factor really factors in for us. I actually think that Scarlets are in the same position going into Connacht. We were in last week. Is that they've lost a derby in a really shitty way, and they've got to go and face a good side at home. So how do you bounce back from that? And Munster in that position now where they've not lost a derby, but they've lost it to a team that they should never have lost to. And let's be fair, if you're a Munster fan, it's a disgraceful loss. If you're Munster,
Donncha O'Callaghan saying they should be embarrassed isn't far from the point.
No, it's not.
Zebra are incredibly good, but also they should be putting that game to bed.
And it's not a slight on Zebra.
No.
Like it's like when Ospreys lost to the Kings, right?
Yeah.
It's not a slight on how good the Kings were in that day. It's a slight the fact the Ospreys were 4-time champions of that league and should never have lost to the Kings at home. So yeah. Do you want some stats before we do?
Oh, I love a stat.
Prediction.
Big fan of stats.
So Gavin Coombs is one of 2 players to have scored 3 tries in the opening round. He has also made more carries, 28, and tackles 30 than any other Munster player, which tells me 2 things: that he's a bit of a talisman, and he's the only Munster player that's fit.
Look, the key thing here, right, is that we get Gavin Coombs against Morgan Morris, the 2 players that will not be shut up about. And we got
Simon this year as well, might I add.
More importantly, we'll also get Harry Deeves versus Peter O'Mahony. which is if the biggest surface area of cunt to ever exist. That's what that is. Munster have made more clean breaks than any other team in 22 and average the second most meters per possession at 12.4. And they have made an average of 1 passes per ruck, which is the second most, and 60.2% of their touches have been passes, which makes sense considering who they've got in the backs, like Thakir Abrams, things like that, but they haven't got that now. Interestingly, last year we were top of that. So our forwards passed more than anyone else. When we've not done that so far this year. On the Osprey side, so obviously Dan Edwards scored 20 points in round 2.
Yes, he did.
Highest of the round, 100% off the tee. Jack Morgan and Dewi Lake made more tackles than any other player last weekend with 21 and 20 respectively. Lake also beat 4 defenders, Morgan scoring a try. So they are 2 standouts, which obviously we might not see this weekend, but shows how important they are. And then the stat that's really good is we've made more meters than any other team so far this season in 65. but have yet to directly score a maul try. So the penalty try doesn't count. Because we were about 5 yards off, but the Stormers decided to basically chop our legs off. So yeah, obviously Munster's threat lies in the carry. We know this.
Hmm.
The likes of Coombs, the ghost of Paddy Butler, that bloke in the suede shoes from the meme photo. Who else will be playing? Whatever Connacht's player they've bought this year. Yeah, it's Tom Farrell. So yeah, we know where Munster's threat lies, but with the likes of Casey, Crowley at 12, maybe Peter O'Mahony, Murray when he comes off the bench, there are threats there. They are still the firm favourites because it's Munster at home.
Yeah,
but we are it like Benetton away. There's no pressure. I feel.
Yeah, I think that Benton away game last year is the obvious comparison, the big comparison. And you want to use it as the same point in the season where you allow those players to have a chance and you kind of hope for the best and hope it doesn't backfire in the way it did last time we went over to Munster, middle of the season, played a second team. But yeah.
45-3.
Yeah.
Right, let's do a squad quickly. Loose head.
This is the interesting one, isn't it? Because we don't know how hard they're going to rotate.
I think
Steph Thomas.
Yeah, I think Steph. Yes, Din?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably a bit of rotation and to give his cousin a bit of a rest.
Hooker.
Now, do we know if Sam Parry's fit or not? Because we haven't seen him at all this
I
season.
don't think he is.
But there's been no mention of him in any injury update. He's mentioned, never as being injured. If Sam Parry's fit, Sam Parry for me.
Okay. Sam Parry. I agree. I think Ethan Lewis is the next option.
Yeah.
We're all saying Ben Warren.
Yep.
Unchanged second row.
I think you've kind of got to, yeah.
Ratty.
Unless you really want to put in Sutton.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, though. Yeah, you could put Sutton in and move Ratty into the back row.
No,
but then who do you? Yeah, okay. How do you make that work?
The back row.
We're gonna have this conversation every week or season, aren't we? Do you move Ratty into the back row and then?
Yeah, our attempt to force James Ratty to play any other than
last year, I would have said Tipperick gets dropped for this game, as in to give his body a rest. But because this is last year, I feel like he'd be like, "Fuck it, I want to play."
I don't know. I think you start Sutton, put Ratty on the bench, give him a bit of time off because he plays in such an attritional manner. He probably needs, a few less minutes on the clock.
And Adam Beard, and then we're saying Deves.
Yep.
Tipperick Morris.
I think Jack Morgan stays in, and I think this is maybe one of those handover weeks where you let Justin Tipperick, perhaps take more of a coaching front and give him an afternoon off. Booth talked about managing his minutes at the start of the season, so this might be one of those games where he does that.
Cool. Are we saying Ruben stays? Played a lot of minutes.
He's one of those. He has played a lot of rugby, isn't he?
I think he does, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's on good form, then probably just stick to him for a bit. Maybe look at that Ulster week and maybe a little bit more of rotation.
And Hardy should be back by then.
Yes.
So, that could be useful.
10.
I say Owen Williams. I would put Owen Williams straight in.
Yes,
I'm in agreement with the Owen Williams hype
I'll
train.
go Owen Williams. I personally think it will be Walsh. But I wouldn't be avert to Owen Williams.
I think this is a perfect game for giving Dan Edwards a rest.
Yes, I agree.
We've talked about giving him kind of time to reflect on the good moments. And last week was such a good moment that you want him to have that. And then you want him to be emotionally fit for next week. Owen Williams, good to have a look at him early in the season. And apparently he's looking like right back to his best, as I was saying in training. So, fingers crossed.
Combia at 11, I think.
Yeah.
Probably stays in.
Yeah. We're short on options.
A
Yeah.
little lack of depth on the wing.
12. Are we saying Watkin moves to 12?
I think we're in agreement. Sorry, yes, then.
I want to see Phil in the 12, but
You want to see Phil in at 12?
yeah,
Okay.
it's just one of those I don't want to see Walking changing around, but that's just me.
I
That's
just,
me with
I
my
think
really rugby opinion.
Booth sees centre as a positionless
Mm.
Yeah.
collective.
I still remember the 58 free hammering where Collins and Watkin constantly switched around all evening.
Everything we've seen with Phil so far has him at 13 and looking for that outside break.
Mhm.
That's what tells me that he sees Phil as a 13. And I feel like that's what he was signed for rather than a big boshy 12.
Mm.
But we know Owen Watkin can do it. You know, if you go back and watch a certain first video of someone in this call, it highlights the fact that Owen Watkin was a gain line 12 and a very good one.
Well, last time we won in Munster, right?
Yeah.
You know what happened?
Didn't he score the winner? Or the
Yeah,
try?
young Owen Watkin comes off the bench and scores the winning try.
Breakthrough season, Owen Watkin. Those were
Yeah.
the days.
Okay, I'll put Phil in at 12 and I'll put Owen at 13.
On for Josh Matavesi.
My dream substitution.
With James J. Engelbrett playing his only 80 minutes for the Ospreys alongside him.
Not a good player.
Well, he probably is, but
Yeah.
I don't think Osprey supposed ever saw it, did he?
Did we say Morgan and gets dropped? Or to say Morgan stays in?
I think sorry, Luke. Well, I suppose it's what, Harry Houston to come in? Or
Houston, you could have.
Or do you move Nagy or Hopkins onto the wing?
Hopkins as an option. He's been training.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you do, but if Houston travels, he played at Munster in April. I think Morgan stays.
Yeah, me too.
I think again until Kasende comes in, we haven't got any real senior depth.
No,
and actually he adds age to the squad. Of just being an old head. Are we agreement that Nagy's in at 15?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe have that Walsh bring that explosiveness from the bench.
Yeah, and I don't think it's not a slight on Walsh. We're big fans of Walsh on this, and it's actually a compliment to him that he's able to come off the bench.
I also think that he's so good as a number 22. He's so good at coming on and changing a game. And we kind of want to use him in that position as well. He kind of has three positions he's very good at. And I'd almost rank, I don't mean this is a slight to him, but 10 is the weakest of the three. I think he's an extremely good fullback, an extremely good number 22, and he's a very good 10 as well. But I really like him, and I think we all have the Lions game in South
the
Africa
litmus test for him is the Lions game. The fact that we don't win that if he doesn't come on at 10.
Yeah. But I like him as that player.
And so then we're saying Lewis Lloyd, Garen Phillips, Tom Boter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
Sounds rather reasonable, especially with the lack of depth.
Again, we haven't seen the press conference, so we don't know. Booth could turn around tomorrow and say, actually, we've got 4 players back, ready to go.
And we've signed 2 new tight heads from
Ratty or Lewis Jones?
I think you probably keep Ratty around. Though I could see Lewis Jones, you say, like Booth talked about the press conference last week being a different player since coming back from South Africa.
A lot of praise.
Yeah.
Which
so
I like.
Perhaps this is it.
We say Morse at 20.
Yep.
Luke 21.
Mm-hmm.
Walsh 22. Hopkins or Houston 23.
Houston, I think. Good to get him a bit of game time.
Yeah.
It'll benefit him more to have 10 minutes.
I can see him sneaking in with Hopkins, but I think it would be good to see Houston in there.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I like either. I mean, I'm a big fan of Hopkins since under 20s. I think I do like Hopkins.
Booth said one of his targets each season is to bring through 6 new players, right, into being like first team capable. And Harry Houston is the most obvious contender there. Tristan Davis is supposed to be one who is in contention, I think, and we might see sneak in. But those two feel like the ones.
Tristan's a really good one, actually.
This season, who we've seen a little bit of, but there is a chance for them to step up here this season.
Okay. So that's our team. Then shall we finish on good player?
Yeah. Well, you say good player, right? I want to introduce a brand new game. A brand new game of, I mean, we almost had a game called Good Players a few months back. It's along those lines. It's along those lines. What we're looking at is, again, Blood and Mud. Josh Gardner, friend of the pod, ran a similar game to this on Blood and Mud. He called it Play Your Caps Right.
Oh yes, this is great.
I'm happy to call it Good Players Play Your Appearances for the Ospreys professional rugby franchise, right? Whatever you want to go with. What
Don't
we're
call
going
it
to
franchise. You'll have like angry people from Capel Dewi
do.
telling you how your club's not 150 years old and that you don't offload or play running rugby.
No, no, never have actually. That's why I had the fewest passes from forwards last season.
Yeah.
Um, I am going to name, I'm going to be with two players, and we're going to go, the two of you, higher or lower on who you think has the more appearances for the Ospreys. Purely appearances for the Ospreys, based on the official Ospreys record keeping on their website, which I believe should be completely up to date, in a way that Wikipedia and others aren't, sometimes aren't.
It's my favorite.
Friendlies don't count, but, so competitive senior games for the Ospreys. Do we understand? Are we happy? Are we ready?
Go
I
on.
believe so. This could be very
Okay.
interesting very quickly.
So, who played more competitive senior games for the Ospreys? Leslie Klim or Di Flanagan?
Oh,
Yes, and if you go first.
trying to work out how many times Leslie Klim did play. And the first thing that's popped into my head was that brace away at Racing in 2019.
Yeah.
Very, very good performance that was.
Didn't
Di
he
Flanagan
score at
never did that.
home as well? Was it
Oh,
Dix who scored at home?
Dirksen scored in the home game, I think.
Dix who scored at home.
I am gonna stick my neck out on the line and not trust Leslie Kim and go for Di Flanagan.
Okay. James, what do you say?
Di Flanagan was only here for a year because he got released from his contract early to go play for Ponty. But Leslie Klim was here for about 3 years and played about 2.5 times.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go Di Flan.
Leslie Klim made 6 appearances to Di Flanagan's 5.
Oh,
So it's very close, very tight. Okay, we'll move up. Who made more appearances for the Ospreys? Leslie Klim, Namibia legend,
Mm.
or Daryl Marfo?
oh
Oh,
my word! There's a name. Oh,
Former Scotland prop
came in with great promise, was
and great
utterly,
hair.
utterly wank.
his debut was at Rodney Parade in the start of
Hmm.
2020, if memory serves me correct. And I want to say Kilm
I
had
think
more
it's
appearances.
Klim. I
You
think so.
You're both right.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Leslie Klim.
I've had 4.
Free. You're
I,
very
yeah,
close.
Mark only had a couple.
Okay. Leslie Klim or Georgie Garjon?
Oh, he
Hang
played
on.
at home. I'm pretty sure, guys. I remember seeing him warm up, and I was like, it's like looking at a Citroen C4.
He was just shoulders. He was the world's
He
biggest
was.
pair of shoulders, and they forgot to
But I
make
have
the
a
rest of a
feeling he only
man.
made like 3 appearances, so I'm going to go Klim.
I might go for the Moldovan, actually. I think he might. I think, because I remember seeing him in pre-season action, obviously. But I think he 2019-20 he might have had a couple of games run off the bench.
You're
Pretty
spot
sure,
on. Yeah.
pretty sure played in the first charge down game as well.
Yes, of course he did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bench.
he
Thir-
did. You're right.
13 appearances, which is more than I thought he did. I thought he played like 4 or 5 games.
I thought he did as well.
He had a consistent string of games because
Yeah.
pretty sure most props at that time were getting injured, and he was on the bench for a few of them. And then I'm pretty sure he got injured during Christmas. That's why
Right. Okay.
Simon Gardner was called up to the Osprey squad.
I almost
He
had
was
Simon
good
Gardner in this
for
game.
us. He
Yeah.
was good. I don't care.
Okay.
Right.
Georgie Garjon or our first captain, Scott Gibbs?
Oh, Georgie Gajon.
Yeston?
Yeah, I was trying to think how many games Gibbs did play, so I'm veering towards the Moldovan.
Gibbs played 16 to Gajon's 13.
Did he play the
That's miles off compared to like the Clem one, the first one, where it's like 6 and 5.
Yeah.
16 and 13 feels like different postcodes.
We're flying now. We're flying. Okay, I might move out of the obscure after one more, right? Scott Gibbs or Josh Thomas? Leinster charge down hero, Josh Thomas.
He played sparingly. Oh.
Yeah, he never had a consistent run in the team either.
Now at Cardiff, of course.
There was a string of games near the end of that season where he played. The Newcastle game in Europe, obviously the Leinster one. I can't remember.
How many did Gibbs play against? 16?
Gibbs played 16. Yeah.
It's Josh
17 to win.
Thomas. He definitely played more than 16.
Josh Thomas played 17 games.
Oh,
So that one gets a bit closer. I'm going to bump us up a bit. This one might not be as difficult, right? Who played more games for the Ospreys, Josh Thomas or Harry Deeves?
Oh, Harry Deeves is near 50. He's on like 39 or something like that, isn't he?
yeah, Deeves he's had a lot. I don't think many people realize how many games he's actually played, especially coming off the bench as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's on,
you remember that his debut against Sale, but pretty sure he came off the bench against Edinburgh the following week.
Yeah. So
And then there's like a few bench appearances that end of that season. Then obviously now,
yeah, sort of became a regular last season, and 38 games for the Ospreys. Now, okay, now I'm gonna move a bit quicker. I've got no idea how the listeners at home enjoy it. I'm having a great time.
I'm great. Great.
It's good fun, but the viewership could plummet. Well,
They can fast forward.
Probably.
They can fast forward. That's fine. So who played more games for the Ospreys? Right, Harry Deeves or Jack Walsh?
Jack Walsh was the start of 22-23.
Yes, correct.
Starting.
Because he had that block of games where he started week in, week out, or definitely played week in,
Well,
week
yeah,
out.
'cause in and around they were managing Anscombe.
Yeah, as there was injuries galore to the fly half
Before
situation.
Owen Williams signed.
I think
I want to say Walsh might be closer to 50, but I could be wrong.
I think Jack Walsh, but I'm not confident.
You're both right. Jack Walsh played one more game than Harry Deeves. Once again, 39 to 38.
These are
Okay.
far closer to my liking.
Jack Walsh or Stephen Myler?
Myler was 2 seasons where he played pretty much every game, but I think it's Jack Walsh because we didn't go far in Europe.
Yeah. Well, one of the games was cancelled because the Ospreys were. Oh no, that was the season after.
Well, 3 seasons, wasn't he? Myler was here.
Yeah, three seasons. I think one of them where the Ospreys had COVID and didn't play out in Racing. I'm pretty sure Anscombe. Oh no, I'm trying to work it out now. Can't remember if Anscombe was back into the fold or not.
I think it's Walsh.
I'm veering towards Myler, but there's not much in it.
I would have said Myler, but the answer is Jack Walsh.
Yeah, I thought so.
So that brings scores back level. Brendan Leonard or Jack Walsh? Who played more games for the Ospreys?
Was it Brendan Leonard's weird cello playing uncle?
It's a deep cut.
That is a deep cut. That if you are a loyal listener of the pod, you will remember that. Brendan Leonard once tried to lead a revolt of the players against Steve Tandy. But that's
Did he have the appearances to back it up?
Yeah, that's not the question you're asking, though.
Bald on bald crime.
Bald crime. I'm gonna go with Brendan Leonard. I think he played like 40 odd because he was here for longer than you think.
Yeah.
And left not too long ago as well.
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
Wasn't Sean Venter his replacement?
Yeah. They might have even overlapped. Because Sean Venter was Haberfield's replacement.
No, I think Leonard left after 17-18, I think. Which is obviously after, that season when Tandy did get sacked. And But
I
one
still
would
like
argue he won the player
Like,
revolt.
because didn't we sign him from Zebra?
Yeah.
I think it's Leonard.
You'd
Yeah.
be spot on. It is. Oh no, sorry. Okay, yep.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Leonard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brendan Leonard,
I had a
45.
sudden switch. I forgot about his zebra stint, and I thought, oh, hang on, but no, yeah, I'm going with Leonard.
Brendan Leonard or Josh Matavesi?
Oh, Matavesi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Matavesi, just
Yeah, Josh Matavesi, 79. We're jumping up a bit. Right. But this is the interesting one. This is maybe my favorite matchup here, right? Josh Matavesi or Kieran Williams?
It's Matavesi. Kieran Williams has played 78 times.
see with someone so assertive who is
I'm certain of it. It's
centre
Kieran Williams.
knowledge.
So long. He's only in like this. I think he's either one ahead of Matavesi or he's one behind Matavesi.
Because he made the 50th was against the Dragons the week before Sarri's game. So I'm trying to work it out. And he played a few times last season. I want to go with Matavesi.
You're right. It's Matavesi. Yeah, 5 appearances ahead of Keith. So Keith should probably overtake him this season. But
I
yeah.
bloody hope.
Yeah, agreed. So we will jump on up, right? Josh Matavesi or Morgan Morris. Who's made more appearances?
See, Morris has been around a lot longer as well than probably many people think.
Morgan Morris made his debut in the last Alan Clark season.
Yeah.
Because he scored in the Kings defeat.
This is one of these things. I don't remember Morgan Morris coming along. He was just there suddenly one day.
Yeah, it was just during that 2019-20 season where everything was going wrong.
He got a phone call from someone who said you should go to the Ospreys, and he was like, "Fuck it, I'm leaving university. I have nothing else to do."
Yeah, I'm veering towards Morris at the moment. I don't know why.
Also, I'm completely lying, by the way. He made his debut in 2018.
Okay.
Did he?
In the Anglo Welsh Cup.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
But then played one game in the.
He might have played against Worcester actually in the game where Hook was a 10 and the Ospreys didn't turn up until about the 41st minute.
No, I think Morris is on 90 odd. I think Morris is making his 100th. I think either against Bulls or Ulster.
I was veering towards Morris as well.
It's Morris.
You're both right. Yeah, Morgan Morris is on 98 games. So again, this season should hit 100. And we'll do we do one more? Or do you want to keep...
go on.
Yeah,
Let's
one
do
more. So this is, I think, an ultimate Osprey showdown. When we're talking about our favorite ever teams, this came up as a clash, right? Who made more appearances? Morgan Morris or Philo Tia?
Tia, because he made 99 appearances because I listened to the Scrum 5 interview pre the Dragons on the
I
weekend.
haven't actually watched that. I haven't watched that interview, but I know it's Philo as well because it was 99, and I'm permanently fuming that he's on 99.
99 to 98, yeah. Philo's one ahead. Well, what a game that was.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do variation.
I'm glad they listened to Scrum 5 on Friday night and paid attention to
I
it.
still haven't watched that interview because it means I have to watch Sean Holly.
Beautifully, we have no winner as well because you both got the same number right.
Again,
so congratulations, one and all.
I circle back to the introduction.
I'll tell you what. We need a decider here. Right?
All right, come on.
Okay. So I want you to guess to the closest number, and whoever's closest wins. How many appearances Richard Fussell made for the Ospreys? Purely as a player, as a coach, doesn't count.
Yeah. Was he part of the 200 club?
Oh,
I don't know if he was. Duncan was.
Yes.
I can tell you, Richard Kelly was not in the 200 club.
No, Richard Kelly had 6 appearances.
Yeah.
I will say 160 because
160.
I am thinking he ended up on 157. I don't know where that number's come from, but That's me guess.
I'm going to go a
So
bit
157.
lower. I'm going to go 135.
It was 113.
Yes,
Ooh.
come on.
Oh, wild celebration.
Yes. Again, I circle back to the intro where I said 3 rejected chase contestants.
That is
I was
exactly what's
miles off. I
happening here.
was 50 appearances off.
But I would have guessed higher. I would have guessed much
I
higher.
would have guessed. I was seriously thought, is he 100 club? Is he 200 club?
Yeah.
I genuinely thought, is he
I
200?
thought he hit 150, but inevitably not.
No. That's
I've got a game I want to do to follow up 1 week about one cap wonders for the Ospreys. People played one game. We'll get there eventually. But thank you for indulging me in that ridiculous, pointless activity that I drew up when I should have been researching Razi Erasmus for a video.
Hey, where is he? I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I am gonna go to bed just thinking, because there's a few, like Dan Lydiate barely has any caps for the Ospreys, or shouldn't have that many.
Dan Lydiate was on the list and I didn't use him in the end.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
thought
much fewer than I thought. But I'll keep that quiet in case
because he was
in case we
24
do this again.
15 when he signed and but barely played. The other one, like the Scarlets version, would be Jack Morgan, who only played 20 games for Scarlets. But yeah,
Which is more than I thought, more than I'd ever wish on him.
more than he wanted.
He hated every second of that.
Yeah, more than he wanted to. So cool. I think that's everything. That was good fun, gents. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
We will be back next week to dissect the trip to Cork. We will look ahead to the Bulls game, which I will be at. I can't wait to actually get down to watch an Ospreys game. And we'll think, are we going to do a game or should we do a good player next week? It's Bulls, so there's no good player to do.
No, unless
we could do the
unless you really want to talk about Conal Hendricks' hat trick.
He ran some good lines that night.
We could do the infamous Stade Francais quarterfinal, because that was Bull. That was a big part of Bull from Matt Carley.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said that, not me. I'm not getting involved in that.
So one-off. That is the only case in which I've ever been fuming enough to be that angry.
Or we'll think of another game.
Yeah.
But as pointed out by Robbie before we go, it is the 10-year anniversary on Sunday of the original meme of this podcast.
Yes.
He's got it on to Hassler.
And really, we should have done that as good player, considering it is the game we're playing this weekend. And it is the last but one time we beat Munster and the last but 2 time we beat them at all. And it was 10 years ago.
It had Scrum Cap Matavesi era.
Yeah, Dan Evans kicking 50-22s before they existed.
Yeah. It was great. Young Nicky Smith, so much potential. This is what's said in that clip. I want to
say Dimitrov came back from injury. Was it that one of the one?
Yeah, it might have been.
Just smashed a few scrums.
But again, I come back to this, when Sky had it, they would have like all-star lineups, like for commentary and punditry, because it was like Ryan Jones was on punditry, and he was like, "Yeah, this Justin Tippricks guy is really good," and then the Irish guy, I can't remember who it is. It might be like, is it Donegal O'Callaghan?
I think it is, yeah.
He's like, "I don't believe you," and then Tipprick runs up the line. He's like, "Oh yeah, actually, you're quite good." Because he'd watched Paul Wallace for years, who just ran into people. Like, oh, you can actually run around people.
That doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, right. That is it from us. Catch us on the flip side. We will see you soon. Have a good one.